There will be drugs coming in the next 10 years that boost human longevity to just 3 question mark limits of like, there's age reversal drugs coming in the next 10 years that are going to, make everyone who's in their 50s functionally appear to be, and at the cellular level be measured to be like in their early 20s.
As you can imagine, or as you know, Miami, Florida is a very unique place, very diverse, special place. It's got a lot of pros and got a lot of cons. And I just wanted to get on with someone who's an expert in the field. You're certainly that. You've been crushing it in regards to giving great information to the public. So thank you for that. But I really want to hear about your background and how you came to be in the position you're in today.
Yeah, I started training when I was 15. After 1 year of wrestling, 1 season of wrestling, I thought I needed to get stronger for wrestling. It made sense. And I trained for a few years just on purpose without really liking it. And then eventually I started to like it. And I got pretty strong. And by the time that I went to college, I looked up some records for powerlifting, some federation records, realized I was in sight of breaking them, competed for the first time in powerlifting in my sophomore year of college, and actually broke a federation world record, which made me feel quite nice. And so then I competed in powerlifting for a while. And then I actually fell in love with more high rep, high volume hypertrophy training. I really liked the pump. I like growing. I bought some muscle magazines. I really liked them. And that took me all the way through undergrad. And sort of halfway through undergrad, I changed my major to kinesiology. And then I went and did a master's program at Appalachian State University in exercise science because I wanted to learn more about how to get stronger and bigger. But also, truthfully, I had absolutely no plans for after undergraduate. And then I went to work as a personal trainer in New York for a year. And I realized that I wanted to learn a lot more. I wasn't really finding myself having enough knowledge for my own tastes. There was too many things in the gym that I couldn't explain. And so I re-enrolled, was accepted into school at East Tennessee State University to pursue my PhD in sport physiology and performance. And I did that. That's when I became Dr. Mike. I got a chance to work with a bunch of different teams, volleyball and soccer and throwing and weightlifting and basketball and tons of other teams, and actually helping them with strength conditioning, helping them with nutrition, helping them with fatigue management. So that was really awesome. And then I was a professor for a few years in a few different schools. And at some point during that time, so during the PhD program, actually, we started Renaissance Periodization, now known as RP Strength. And once that got going pretty big, it turned out that it was not such a good use of my time anymore to go be a professor. So I stopped being a professor. I did it online for a little bit, but then stopped even that. And so now I'm full-time RP. We have diet and training apps, and I make YouTube videos and talk about stuff on podcasts and write books. I've written a bunch of books. So, in addition to that, I right after I finished my graduate studies, I began to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so I still do that, and I have a black belt in that. And so it's just kind of been running around and trying to add credentials to my name for some reason.
Yeah.
Probably just ego. And that's all I got.
Well, your impact is certainly being felt, certainly across the U.S. and I know probably internationally. I have no doubt. The RP platform is great. So kudos to you for that. Congratulations on doing such an awesome job with that. You were taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How long have you taken Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I guess like 11 or 12 years at this point. Pretty close to 12.
And what's the frequency?
It's been anywhere between 4 times a week to 2 times a week on average. Right now I'm recovering from surgery, so it's been 0 times a week for a while, but it'll get back to 2 in a little bit.
You're super active, and you come to the game with so much knowledge. I guess I wanted kind of an update and get your perspective on the state of affairs, as you've talked about on every podcast you've been on. We're talking about training, but before the training, it's, I guess, what is the most common challenge that you have in this field, paying it forward or passing information forward to the general public? What do you think the biggest misconception is in training that you have to frequently communicate?
I'm not sure what the biggest one is. I think anyone who tells you that is probably manufacturing something,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's a kind of a list of a few of them that come up very regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of them that's front of mind right now is people are trying to, maybe you can call it majoring in the minors, but they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to hyper optimize when they're missing very big chunks of their basics. So, like, you can imagine the analogy would be you really, really, really are concerned with exactly what kind of elite tier racing graded spark plugs to buy, even though
Mm-hmm.
you have like a 1988 Toyota Corolla. And it doesn't make a lot of sense because you're like, do you want to buy like a Corvette? Do you want to put racing tires on it? Maybe that's going to make like 800% difference. And then the
Right.
specific spark plugs might make some tiny difference. But you'll get people regularly who hit the gym 0 to 1 times per week and train in what I would describe as like a stochastic manner. It's totally random and not very hard, and with terrible consistency, with almost
Mm-hmm.
no attention to nutrition. And they'll ask things like, "So, what's like the best bicep exercise?" And you're like, "My friend, it's the one you do consistently."
Yeah.
That's the first answer. And once you've established consistency, we can really talk about what the best bicep exercise is. But there's not even an answer to that question because variation means that one exercise will get stale on you and you'll have to switch to another. There's a
Mm-hmm.
candidate list of a few bicep exercises that you can train when they're, in a lot of tension is presented in a lengthened position,
Mm-hmm.
like lying dumbbell curls and behind the back free motion cable curls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great bicep exercises, but that grain of wisdom I give you just by telling you that it's those two exercises and related exercises that probably the best bang for your buck
Mm-hmm.
is going to make almost no difference to the size of your biceps if you don't have your consistency, your intensity and effort, and your frequency dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people will ask real technical questions just completely way outside of what it is that they need to be successful. It's
Mm-hmm.
like asking, what kind of, modern NVIDIA chip you should run on your computer when you actually just don't have power in your house. It's confusing. And so it's always curious to me that people ask questions like that, but they sure ask questions like that
Oh
all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why exactly. I haven't figured that one out. What do you think?
I mean,
I'm sure you get questions like that all the time from people.
yeah, I do. I do. And certainly appreciate your answers, but I mean, I just think, I know it's the go-to nowadays, but we kind of live in a quick fix, quick scrolling, instant gratification world, and people don't understand it's actually a journey, and it's going to take a good amount of time to move the needle, metaphorically speaking, or make progress. And I think any sort of commitment is a lot of commitment to the common human being.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So with training, I get a lot of questions, and I certainly have my thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on people. How heavy do I have to train? What does the effort need to look like? I really need you to educate the public on how to gauge effort, intensity, and load, and just get them a better understanding of those three things.
Yeah, there are two variables there. It's not super complicated. That's the good news. The first variable is called relative effort. It's how close to failure are you training, or how hard are you pushing until with good technique you can't push anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get the 11th rep on a bench press, but the 12th just doesn't go up. That means you're what's called 0 reps in reserve or failure, very similar concepts. And so anything close to about 3 reps in reserve, 2 reps, 1 rep, 0 is really training hard enough. So you can check that box with a nice big green check mark. Training any easier than that is basically not stimulating your muscles nearly as much to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So it could potentially be like the part of your program that's stopping you from growing the most.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of how that works. That's kind of how that looks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's factor number one. Very important. Every set you do, no matter how much weight is on the bar, you're going to push it pretty close to failure. And in the real world, it's really easy to judge that by at least two variables, some combination of two. One is, what is the speed of the bar? If you can do a curl and go boop, 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 and put it down like, but they never slow down.
Right.
Now you can also have it to where you intentionally move it a little bit slower. It'll never slow down, but it'll still get hard. And that's the second variable you judge by. Is the weight perceptively feeling heavier to you? I'm sure you've seen plenty of people. I have been to South Florida many times. They'll get on the chest press and they'll do a set of 10, but you never can tell if they just stopped for lulls or if they just miscounted and
Mm-hmm.
stopped by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Every rep looks the same. The
Mm-hmm.
effort on their face looks the same, which is to say, doesn't look like any effort at all. And people will stop. And when I used to be a personal trainer, I would get folks like this in the gym, and I would say, one more, one more, one more, one more. At about 19 reps, they would start to struggle and grimace. And I'd be like, okay, you were actually training about 10 reps away from failure. So you weren't ever really training. You were just warming up for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big deal because a lot of people want to know how many reps to do. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Actually, I'll just talk about it now. It's really quick. It's anywhere between 5 and roughly 30 repetitions. So long as you're getting close to failure and really trying at the tail end of those sets, all of those are great for building strength and size and all those other things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very wide range. But the reality is this: a lot of people want to know, how many reps should I do? And they never bother to figure out how hard should they go in that set.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll do a set of 5, but in reality, that's their 15 rep max.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're at 10 reps in reserve, which means they are 7 reps comfortably away from doing nearly the kind of stimulus that you would require to get your best gains. And they'll say, oh, that exercise doesn't work for me. And my response is generally, have you ever really, really done that exercise though? It's kind of one of those things from the first Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Neo wakes up in the Nebuchadnezzar, the sewer ship, and he's like, why do my eyes hurt? Because you've never used them before. That's similar. I'm sure you've gotten this with clients. Like, why do my muscles hurt? Like, well, you've never really pushed yourself before. Many people just don't know what that means. And that's a big deal. So that relative effort has to be high. And then anything in that relative effort that lands you between a set of 5 and a set of 30 reps is generally really good.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Do you have I guess it's a frequency question, frequency training split / frequency for beginners, how you like to intro people you suggest, and then people who are a little bit more advanced and have at least a decade under their belt for training. And the goal is the same, Mike, to put on muscle and get some gains.
Yeah. The frequency is really similar. It's whenever your muscles are healed enough to go hit it hard again, which generally can occur between training anywhere between 2 and 4 times a week for the same muscles. Beginners can typically train with such low volumes and intensities that they get a really big stimulus from just a few sets. And so they can train their whole bodies twice a week and get amazing gains. More advanced people need to train more often because they have more training to do. And so if they split it up into more sessions, because if you try to do all your training for whole body at once, when you're advanced, it's like a 3-hour workout. And that last hour is a waste of time because you're so tired, you're barely stimulating any muscle growth at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
total number of sessions per week tends to go up as you want to continue to get really good gains. So see, beginners can train twice a week and for years get amazing benefits. Intermediates should be training 3 to 5 times per week. And then advanced people should be training, depending on how they slice it, 4 to 6 or even more times per week, sometimes doing 2-a-day sessions in order to get their best gains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So do you have a particular, to break down body part, do you have your go-to exercises for each body part that you absolutely love? This is Mike's hit list for every body part, meaning like, let's go legs, shoulders, a push in a chest and a back. What are your go-to exercises? And not just pick one of your favorites.
I like high bar squats for legs,
Mm-hmm.
for quads. I like stiff legged deadlifts for hamstrings. I like to do pull ups or bent over barbell rows for back. I like to do deficit push ups or inclined barbell presses for my chest. I like upright rows for shoulders. And I also really like dumbbell lateral raises for shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And for biceps, I like lying bicep curls. You usually lie down on a bench and curl down until you touch the ground and come back up.
Mm-hmm.
And for triceps, I really, really like barbell skull crushers a lot.
Nice. Nice. Uh, Glute specific.
Lunges, front foot elevated Smith machine lunges are
Nice.
my favorite glute exercise because they're actually a really interesting exercise. That front foot elevation puts a really big stretch on your glute, which is
Mm-hmm.
like really good for hypertrophy, as science has found out recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also allows you to take most of the load because the Smith machine auto balances. You can put most of the load on that front leg and thus get it almost all glute. You don't have to use that back leg hardly at all.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's a lot of stability baked in, you can do a kind of a lunging exercise and not have to wobble back and forth much and stabilize. So
Right.
you can really grind your glutes into a pulp. That's one of those
Yeah.
exercises that really, really, really does a lot of stimulus. And I actually did it yesterday. And I'm like, my butt is super sore right now as I sit in the seat.
You're going to see a large influx of people doing the Smith machine exercise in months to come. I'll tell you that. Um, any specific grip work? And I know we
I
get it
don't,
with other exercises, but any
yeah,
specific
I
exercises?
train my forearms for hypertrophy by doing a variety of dumbbell wrist curls, barbell wrist curls, and I really like machine wrist curls on like the free motion cable machine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't do grip work per se very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't train for strength anymore. I haven't in a very long time, and my grip strength is more or less irrelevant to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do any grip strengthening exercises, but I do forearm hypertrophy exercises, and
Okay.
so those tend to be a lot of wrist curls of different kinds. You know.
Okay. Awesome. And I would say, I guess before I go into the next genre, what would you say is the best approach for someone who wants to train to we start to decline at a certain age, certainly, but to maintain strength, gain strength, and the best plan for longevity? Because I know it's very different from a person who's trying to develop a massive body. But if someone wants a basic plan to stay healthy and to contribute and maintain uh, life and have longevity.
Yeah, you train 2 to 4 times per week, training your whole body the entire time. If you train 4 times a week, you can train upper body one time and lower body the other time.
Mm-hmm.
You want to focus mostly on free weight and body weight movements, dumbbells, barbells, body weight movements. And you want to make sure to go through as deep of a range of motion as you can to prepare your body for the most extreme scenarios of
Mm-hmm.
healthy living. And it strengthens your connective tissues and it makes your muscles bigger. And you want to make sure that you descend down under control and probably take a pause at the bottom of every rep to minimize the chance of getting hurt in the gym. And I would say you probably want to train in that 10 to 20 rep range for the most part so that you're getting enough loading to get the muscles and the bones stronger, but you're not doing sets of 5 or something like that because when you're older, sets of 5 have a much higher probability of getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say that's probably the best way to do it. And the last thing I would say is, for every 3 or 4 weeks that you're training hard, you should take 1 week either to train very easy or off altogether
Mm-hmm.
and just enjoy activities of daily living so that you can manage your fatigue, because fatigue is something that accumulates significantly faster when you're older.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. Every time my first thought was when you said, to download like every 3 weeks, or every fourth week, maybe. Do you do that, number one? And when I get asked, when I tell people they need to recover and take some time off, people say, well, Mark, I see you in the gym every day. So I don't think what they're understanding is there's a way for me to download and do half the sets, reps, load, and work, and I can still recover, feel good, like I got something done, but I'm not pushing myself to the extremes. It's actually expediting recovery. Do you take that week off?
I take half of that week off. So my deload week, I will do once every 4 or 5 weeks, typically,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes once every 6. And
Okay.
I'll take half a week to go do what you just said, which is like
Mm-hmm.
half the load, half the reps type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other half of the week, I'll just not show up to the gym whatsoever. And that allows me to recover a ton. You recover physically very well just doing less in the gym, substantially less, like half of everything. But psychological recovery is important. And I think
Mm-hmm.
getting a break from going to the gym, from being in the gym, is probably pretty good because it breaks up that monotony of going in and trying to hammer away all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can break up that monotony, then you're like, oh, huh, I'm actually really, really craving to go back to the gym. I really miss the gym. And I think that's a really big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting what you said, take that time off, step away, and it definitely recharges you, refreshes you for sure. Um, it's funny. I was thinking, Mike, is it challenging for you to stay out of the gym for that week or that half a week psychologically?
No, no, because I push myself so hard in training that by the time I'm deloading, I
Mm-hmm.
really just don't want to be in the gym anymore. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a giant pain in the ass. I'd say my last 3 to 6 workouts in any given mesocycle are just like, I don't want to be there. I'm just doing this because it's an issue of commitment and the execution of a plan. So by
Mm-hmm.
the time I'm deloading, I'm like a week into not wanting to be at the gym. So I don't miss the shit at all. Now, in the last day or two before going back to the gym, I'm like, ooh, I really need this. And then I have to be careful not to come back too soon
Mm-hmm.
because, that would interfere with the recovery process. But that's a
Mm-hmm.
very good question. I think a lot of people who really are itching to get back into the gym, um, at the early part of their deload week, I think many of them are just not pushing their accumulation hard enough. And I think they could just train 1, 2, 3, or even more weeks in a row hard
Mm-hmm.
without deloading and then really earn psychologically that
Mm-hmm.
desire to no longer be in the gym.
That's a very, very well said. I like that phrase, earned. And I think, if you could put a percentage on it, I know this is super tricky and broad, but what percentage of the population would you say, of the training population, people who frequent the gym, people who try to get results, what percentage of that population would you say truly gives the effort required to make an actual change?
To make an actual change,
Yeah,
100%, maybe
yeah,
95%.
yeah.
To make nearly as much of a change as they could have if they try to optimize variables,
Mm-hmm.
5%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the really, really interesting dynamics we see in fitness is that because when you're untrained or not very well trained, doing almost anything helps, there's this giant illusion that arises for most people that what they're doing is working. You'll see this as a defense people will use for the erroneous practices of many lifters and even very famous bodybuilders.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, you'll say, hey, that guy's doing that exercise wrong. And they go, well, it works for him. And what I think they're missing is that, well, yes, going to the gym and lifting weights hard in any capacity is going to work. It's not like he's going to lose muscle like training really hard, but it's that there's an alternate universe where he is actually training properly and he's even more muscular and even leaner and all that good stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
think most people that are in the gym are absolutely putting in enough effort to get some results, but they usually just don't know what they're missing until they figure out how to train better. And you'll
Yeah.
see that a lot of times with clients and with people that use apps and stuff is they try a real formal diet, they try a real formal training system, they get a good training partner, they get a good personal trainer. 3 or 4 months later, they're like, holy crap, this is intense. So like a good real life example is the interviewer podcast host Chris Williamson.
Oh yeah.
Chris had been training for like a generation by himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked amazing. And he does.
Mm-hmm.
But when he started training more with some of the practices that we use at RP, he said he got better gains within half a year than he had gotten in the last like 6 years before that combined.
Mm-hmm.
At no point in that process was he not getting gains. He was getting gains doing the old methods, but the gains just got a lot better when he started doing RP. And not to say
Mm-hmm.
anything's magical about our methods, they're just pretty effective. There's lots of ways to get really good, effective results, but that's one of those things people will say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a statement that is, it's like a yin and a yang. It has a lot of
Yeah.
truth and it has a lot of falsity. The
Hmm.
true part is like, look, I mean, if something is effective, that's a good thing. And you should at least have some reverence for that fact and at least not to try to completely just turn it upside down altogether and then potentially get worse results, for sure. But also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it completely obviates the intellectual landscape of optimization. I mean, can you imagine like if we just still had the space shuttle like it used to be and Elon Musk never tried to build any of his Starship rockets? Because
Hmm.
like space shuttle works just fine. And it really does. It just
Yeah.
crashes like one every 8 launches or whatever. But hey, for
Hmm.
a rocket program, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so you think about like, well, okay, if it ain't broke, don't fix it has wisdom in the sense that like if something is really important, it has to be done now. There's no time to optimize. Just do
Right.
the thing now.
Yeah.
Like if your friend just broke his leg and there's blood splurting everywhere, don't try to reinvent the tourniquet system. Like just put on the tourniquet like it's supposed to be put on according to the manual. Totally cool. But if you have
Hmm.
time and you really care about your results and you're really observing how your body responds to training, then it's a good idea to try to wiggle the variables a little bit to see like, can I get more out of this program? And if
Yeah.
you've almost never tried optimizing, it's almost certainly true you're going to get a lot out of the program. And so people will oftentimes, a very, very related point, they'll do, Mark, I'm sure you've seen this before. People who've been in the gym for like 20 years and
Hmm.
they do basically the same program all the time. And
Oh
they
yeah.
have this like attachment to it psychologically. It's at the comfort zone. They're like,
Hmm.
it's my program. Well, I do my program. And it's like, well, yeah, but like, shouldn't programs evolve over time as you learn your body better and learn yourself better and
Yeah.
learn science better and
Hmm.
experiment more? And everyone who is pretty good at what they do in this field has changed their program over years and years
Hmm.
consistently. It's like a good thing. And so I
Hmm.
think some people get lost in that and they say, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I have my program and it's giving me good results. It works for me. And what they miss out is there's an alternate version of them in some other universe that actually tried improving things and now has a better body. And before that version falls asleep at night, it goes, man, thank God I made some changes.
Right. It's interesting. You said this is what I heard. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're missing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is it possible? It's like someone gets into it. I know this is an odd analogy. If someone gets into a disagreement with another person, it's like, do you have any responsibility, culpability? Could you have been better in this conversation on these communication channels? The person that says no is a very dangerous person, right? There's always a way to be better. Now, the person who looks at the training and says, my training's perfect, I cannot optimize anything, it can't be better. I mean, that's crazy talk. You can always be better. There's always a way. It could be rest intervals, it could be load, it could be load management, uh, organization of days, whatever it is. But to say that it can't be better is a little bit crazy. As you said, the person who's been doing their program for 10 years, 20 years, I think there's a deep psychological thing there where
Oh, yeah.
it's like, if someone that it's providing them a mental or a mindset, a crutch, a special crutch in their life. Like it's kind of like if they go to their favorite store and the store closed or moves, they'll have a breakdown. If they don't do
Oh,
those exercises,
yeah.
yeah, so I think it has a lot, Mike, to do. I'm sure you've seen this as well with the client. Like the client has to be open. Like I had a guy, he wanted to do the same thing when we did our squat day all the time, all the time, all the time. One day I tried to change it and try to do like unilateral stuff. And he kind of freaked out. Why are we doing this? This is a waste of time. It doesn't make any sense. Even if after I broke it down,
Jeez.
with broke it down in the benefits and the use of it and why we're doing it biomechanically, everything. Like he thought I was just giving him word salad. And I'm like, dude, this is going to help you way more when we go back to squatting. And he, you know, I think the client has to be open to it. And we, of course, will say that, they hire you for a reason. Like there should be some strong or solid level of trust, but it's all what they're open to, I guess, so.
That's a really good point. Yeah, man. It's, you know, Mark, your story is fascinating because it really tells a story of how varied the human condition is.
Mhm.
Like, if you're just training by yourself, like it's totally understandable, though not a great idea to just keep things the same all the time. Like, there's no one,
Mhm.
it's just you, you're just doing your
Mhm.
thing. But hiring a trainer, hiring Mark, who's one of the best trainers in South Florida. You would think like, just do what he says. Like, you're paying the guy for a reason. And then to be like, well, I just want to do what I want to do. We run into this all the time with a very select group. Most people are not like this at RP because we do online coaching. We have a team of like 20 coaches and they have all these PhDs and world championships under their belt. And they coached just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all the time. I sound like Donald Trump. Hundreds. They do the most people. Our coaches are the best. So every now and again, you'll get a client that kind of fills out the survey form and the coach will contact them. And there's like a conversation, as there should be, about how we're going to design the next program for this person. And sometimes what ends up happening is the person ends up saying like, I kind of just want to do my program and for you to like approve of it.
Oh yeah.
And at some point you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. You know what I use all the time is, so my body fat is 24%, hypothetical client. Body fat is 24%. Haven't gained a lot of strength. I like to put on muscle. I want to feel better. I want to have more energy. And this is the program I do.
Yeah.
I think I know what I'm doing. And I want to say, well, I think you just told me how it's working out for you. It's not. I don't know. My next question is, what do you want to hear? I want to help you, but do you actually want the help?
That's intense, man. What's funny is just for folks listening, Mark and I are laughing because it's just you either laugh or you cry at some point. Right now, I am laugh crying. It's like I've run into this so many times, and it's not like a bad thing. These aren't bad people; they're just human beings. But you got to laugh, and then you got to chill, and you got to talk to them and say, "Look, I 1,000% hear where you're coming from. Change is freaky, and what you've been doing at least has been keeping you consistent, which is just number one, the most important thing. But if you let us wiggle a couple variables, then maybe you'll get even better results." And then a lot of people are like, well, okay, I'll try it. And after they try it, they're like, dude, thank God you came along and helped me out, because good Lord knows what I was doing by myself. And that's not a bad thing. That's why you pay folks like us, is to actually hook you up. I used to have a very quick example of this. Is now you told that story, I'm like, I got 500 examples. I used to teach a course as a professor at Temple University. Basically it was it had a more technical name, but it was health behavior. Like, why do people not engage in health behavior, like eating well and exercising? How do they do it? How do we get them into it? How do we keep them into it? What works? What doesn't work? Fascinating course. And I would make a recommendation to the students there that when you're dealing with very overweight people, actually when you're dealing with everyone, you typically don't program a diet for them that expects them to lose more than 1% of their body weight per week at any one given week for any longer than 12 weeks at a time. You can imagine like 12% of your body weight in 12-week diet is like, that's enormous. That's huge.
Huge.
You do that twice a year with breaks in between, you're just not going to be fat for very long.
Right.
And so it's already on the high extreme end. These are top end calibrated metrics. You just do not go higher than this. Like, if you're rushing to get to work, don't go faster than 130 miles an hour. Yes, it's 60 miles an hour faster than the speed limit, but at that point, you just can't control your car. We're not even saying it's way beyond illegal. It's just stupid to go past 130 unless you're like racing car driver or something. And then what I told the students in addition to this, because I've been involved in so many of these, was that a huge fraction of the time, people who weigh 300 or 400 pounds, when you tell them, hey, I want you to lose 2 pounds per week, they'll go, hey, now listen, I could lose a lot faster than that. And what I used to tell the students, all jokes, all love and respect, and I told the students, this is just a joke. I've never actually said this to a client. The little voice in your head that wants to respond, and then you kind of re-narrate it and actually say something nice.
Yeah.
And the voice is like, motherfucker, if you're so good at losing all this weight, why the fuck do you weigh 350? It didn't occur to you that might be like all of your assumptions behind weight loss might be like potentially wrong, like, come on. And so the reality is a lot of people, they'll lose 3-4 pounds a week for 3 or 4 weeks. They get psychotically hungry because it's a huge calorie deficit, and they'll rebound right back to where they were. And so a lot of times that conversation with a client is super important to get them not to change everything about their plan, maybe just change a little bit. And they're
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is working. You go, cool. A few months later, you're like, hey, like we're going to change a few more things. And it's one of those ship of Theseus kind of things where if you replace one plank of wood in the ship over 1,000 years, is the ship
Hmm.
still there? By the
Right.
way, the technical answer is yes, but philosophy aside, it's like you replace one part of their program every few months, and 2 years later, they have a completely different program.
Yeah.
They're doing nothing of the stuff they used to do, or some of the stuff that worked still, but a little bit of it. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, this is my program. And a lot of times clients don't respond to like, hey, just do this. Though I will say many clients do respond to, hey, just do this. And those are some of the most successful clients
Oh
that
yeah.
bring in crazy work ethic, crazy dedication, and carte blanche in the sense of like, they're like, you just go, do me, tell me what to do, push me hard. I'm a fucking pussy. Yell at me and push me anyway. I've had clients in New York, corporate lawyers, finance
Oh
people,
yeah.
just be like, beat me to death. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, you got it. Those people get the results all the time, but like, not everyone's like that, you know?
Right, for sure. I mean, that's certainly a dream client. Like I spent the first, I'd say 8 years, maybe 10, trying to sound very smart. And I wanted them to
Same.
know how smart I was.
I'm still on that journey.
Yeah. And, yeah. And then realizing, wait a minute. First of all, I'm not that smart. Secondly, I have so much to learn. I don't know what I don't know. And then I just want them to get it done. Like I
Yes.
want them to get it done. And I need to figure out, I was having a conversation with one of our newer team members yesterday. It's like, everyone has a different love language. Everyone has a different performance and training language. And I have to
Sure.
figure out what that is for each person and how to
Yeah.
deliver that message. And once I figure that out, I can tell this guy, just do this. And then there's
Yeah.
another guy, I got to tell him 12 times, like literally every time we squat, I have to coach him and cue him like we've never done it before because
Yeah.
he doesn't listen to me. But that's not his problem.
That
That's my
sucks.
problem, right? It's frustrating because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, my goal for that individual is to make sure that he can retain some information. So when he's on his own, he's in a wonderful position to thrive and have a great deal of success, or at least stay injury free. But the retention is huge. And that's person to person, different love language, different listening language, and they all process information differently. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate your story. And man, we could go on forever about those stories. But
Yeah. Well, really quick on the
please.
love language thing is I actually, I used to teach a few courses when I was a professor and actually just personal training. The entire course
Mhm.
is personal training.
Okay.
And one thing that I would tell students is you have to have like um, a pyramid shaped approach to the explanations you give in training, where you start at the top of the pyramid in the simplest terms, and you only level down to broader and deeper explanations that are more scientifically literate if the client wants to know. So you
Yes.
can say, okay, we're doing squats today, and they're going to be for your quads. And they go either okay, or they go, why? Why
Mhm.
not leg press?
Mhm.
And you go, well, you okay? Next level of explanation. Well, squats we tend to find work a little bit better because they train your adductors too and your glutes a little bit. We don't have a ton of time. And they go, okay, but like, can't we train those things with other exercises? And then you go into stimulus to fatigue ratio, stimulus to time ratio,
Mhm.
integrating those ratios. And after a while, they're like, I don't know that much science. I'm like, dope. Okay. We can just work through the science over 20 minutes, or you can just do the squats. And
Yeah.
they're like, I fuck it, just do the squats. At some point, you're
Yeah.
going to outscience all of your clients. It's your job. You know more than they do. But some people want a next layer of justification. And
Mhm.
so what I used to tell my students, and I still think this is a really good piece of advice for personal trainers, don't go any lower in the layers than the client wants and
Mhm.
expresses that they want. Because,
Mhm.
like you said, you used to try to sound smart. You used to try to explain all the science. Like it's trippy because I had students be like, meeting with a new client, and they're just trying to teach them biomechanics in the first,
Yeah.
session. I'm like, this person is a corporate lawyer. Their
Mhm.
brain is full. It's
Mhm.
beyond full. They don't even know what
Mhm.
like litigation they're doing tomorrow. They're coming in here to turn the brain off and turn the effort up. Do not tell them anything about biomechanics. If they
Mhm.
ask, you are a wellspring of knowledge, and 100% everything you do in your program is justifiable by science
Mhm.
and logic and reason and inference.
Right.
But is you do not start with that shit. Can you imagine, like, I'm sure you take your car to the shop, right? And the mechanic's like, so what we're going to do here? I'm like,
Yeah.
how much is it going to cost? Are you going to fix the problem? Here's the money.
Right.
I don't fucking
Right.
want to know. I don't know. I don't even
Right.
know what components you're talking about. I
Yeah.
can't, my mental model doesn't involve enough understanding about a car to even place what you're saying. Like, well, the carburetor,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is that? Is that the front of the car? Is it the back of the car? Is not even in a car? Am I misunderstanding that term? Don't care. But some
Hmm.
people really want to know stuff. It's
Right.
important not to just shoot knowledge at people. Remember, the one thing they're there for is results. You just tell them what to do. And if they want knowledge, boy, are they going to get it. But they have to
Yeah.
ask for it, because otherwise, a lot of times, and here's the thing, really quick, a lot of times, really type A clients that are a little bit neurotic. Well, you're in South Florida. I'm sure you coach lots of Jewish people like myself. And, these are people that like run entire banking systems. They, run like, Intel's fucking microchip fab. They're insanely detail oriented. They absorb all the knowledge that they can. And I think everything they hear is important because they have this huge world model to integrate it into. You start telling them about biomechanics, they start overthinking the living shit out of their squat. They're like, okay, so the knees can't track forward 15 degrees, but the butt tracks and the hip tilt. You're like, bro, just
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this, man. You're
Yeah.
so golden.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and if you give them all that information, it just overwhelms them anyway. So don't even bother in most cases.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, I hear. I remember J.L. Holdsworth told me once. He said, "This is how I teach people how to squat." So I got my pad and I got my pen, and I'm like, "Man, this is going to be great." J.L. is going to really school us on this thing. He goes, "He goes, sit down, stand up,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "I'm not like, what are we doing here? Like, how much time do you have?" And I was thinking I mean, that just simplified everything I've ever been doing, and it's often, I started here in training and then I get this CSCS certification. Then I get a West Side certification, and then you know what? I need to really like know my biomechanics, so I do the RTS, and then I
Yeah.
kind of go around the circle, and you know where I end up? Right back to the beginning, meaning like keep it simple, get the results, give the information that they absolutely need.
Yeah.
Don't give them any more, as you said. And then I realized, like, if you're a trainer that really wants to give information and educate, I think that's wonderful. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you're doing that for you, then who's the most important in the room? Yourself. The most important person in that relationship should be the person standing in front of you, because that's who you're servicing. So is this an ego thing or is this a service thing? And what's the exact intention? You don't need to
Brilliant.
sound smart. You need to, as you said, Mike, get them results. And what you need to do is, obviously, if you could get it done in 3 months, get it done in 3 months safely. If it's going to take 2 years
Yes.
because you have to talk through everything, you're doing that for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's a great line in Zero Dark 30, which is
great movie.
a
Great
great
movie.
movie. And it's like the head of the CIA and his aides walk out and they're like, what do you think about, her analysis? And the one aide goes, I think she's really smart. And the CIA
Yeah.
director turns and goes, we're all fucking smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
That's right. That's right.
your clients are smart people. There's a
Yeah.
reason they have a lot of money to pay you with. They're almost always really successful. And there can be a tendency to want to impress them with your intelligence. And you can always
Mhm.
do that when you're talking between, sets. And you can always do that when they ask questions. But if you're really confident in your intelligence and your knowledge, which takes a little while, and sometimes you have to fake it before you make it a little bit, you just have to be like really reserved. Like, how does Yoda start, engaging in a fight? He just
Yeah.
stands there and he like ducks lightsaber for a while, and then
Mhm.
he'll get out his sword and he'll block a few, and then only if necessary he'll start doing flips and cutting people in half and jumping off
Right.
walls and floating and doing his force
Mhm.
powers. It's graded to the level that he has to do. Yoda
Mhm.
just standing in an elevator, you're like, this is like a 2.5 foot alien dude, of course I can kill him. And the reality
Right.
is he's already killed you 5 times, you just haven't
That's
thought
right.
about it yet.
That's
So
right.
if you're a personal trainer, you already know all these things. You're Yoda. You don't have to just swing the lightsaber around at your clients before they even say anything. You
Mhm.
just have to be like, hey, so we're going to start with squats and they're going to be for your quads. And then we're going to move on later to some other exercises. What do you
Mhm.
think? Notice what I said, Mark. Some other exercises. I don't got to tell you what the fuck we're
That's
doing
right.
later. How
That's right.
much working memory does a human have? I don't know, three
Yeah.
or five inputs. Like,
Oh,
what are you going to
it's
say?
gone.
Bent rows and then upright rows and then cable crossover. They don't even know the names of those things. They don't know
Yeah.
where in the gym they,
Yeah.
like when someone tells you, like, hey, after this, we're going to be doing a blah, 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 and the next exercise is that's what they're hearing. They fucking know the names of these things. And so you think you're pouring important information down their brains, where in reality, you're just like filling up their context, where you should dump all context and be like, I just want you to focus on keeping your chest up, getting your butt back, getting your knees out over your toes, and sinking down slow. Got it? And as they do the reps, you go slow, very good. Big chest, very good. Come on, a few more. You got it. Rack. Awesome. Good job. Here's your water. And they breathe and then they do it again. And you're taking care of all the intellectual stuff in here so that you don't have to surface it to them. Like if you talk to modern AI, like ChatGPT or something, especially the reasoning models, they don't show you all the stuff they're thinking about. They just give you the answer. If they showed you all the stuff they were thinking about, you'd be like, what the fuck? I don't read code. What the hell is this? You just give the client. Now, if you ask the ChatGPT, hey, how did you come to your conclusion? Holy shit, you'll get all the information you want, but you probably don't want it.
I love it, man. That's so helpful. I mean, I think, when we're chatting as trainers, I think it's wonderful to engage and have these conversations. And we were in a room full of trainers. We have our team meetings, and the trainers are talking like I like to geek out in this. And I'm like, we're trainers. That's why we're in the field. We all geek out on things, but it's my job to make sure I keep you on course. That's what I need to do. And as we talked about before, Mike, it's all about trust. I mean, I know that trust takes time to build, certainly, but if you don't trust the process and the journey of the person that you've hired, then you need to hire someone else, And is that about the person or is it about you? Like if it's, just changing because you need change for emotion or you need change for behavior, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But you have to make sure, I need to be the best professional I can possibly be. But the client also needs to be the best client they could possibly be, right? And I think having the lines of communication open, over communicating on what the needs are and what they value, I think that's extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal. And trust is a thing that is earned over time. And so wanting it earlier than it is available is a fool's errand. You don't never have to tell your clients, hey, just trust me. They're not there to trust you when it's their first few sessions. They're just there to give you a chance. Like it's like a first date. You can't tell someone on a first date, hey, I'm a really good person. I mean, you can. It comes off really serial killer like. I've ruined hundreds of first dates, mostly exposing myself too early, but sometimes bragging too much. And so at the end of the day, the first date is really just about like free play. You just like, hey, you just got to try to see if anything works, right? There's no pressure. And a first session with a client is the same way. You don't have to trust me, but just like, let's try a few exercises and see what you think. And usually after the first session, when they're wobbling on their legs and they're huffing and puffing, but their joints feel great and they feel really motivated, they're like, I'll see you Tuesday. You're like, damn straight, see you Tuesday. And then the trust starts building. I think a lot of trainers are really interested in like the client being just on board 100%. Like, you got to trust me from day one. Like, no, I don't, motherfucker. I could just fire you tomorrow. Like, we all know that's not true. But if you just have the clients open enough to trying some stuff, hey, like that's a victory in and of itself. And if they're open, they're trying stuff, it's working. After a few weeks, they start doing shit like, I'm sure you've had this before. Loads and loads of clients will get attached to their trainer, not in like a weird stalky way, though that happens every now and again. In the way of like, they're so believing in you, they think you're the best. Like they'll tell their friends, like, my trainer's the best. And they're like, well, I have a trainer in like North Side in Miami. Like, nah, that guy's fucking an idiot. My trainer's the best. You're like, you don't know anything about your trainer. You have no idea if he's the best. You don't know enough about the field to even tell me if your trainer's literate or not. But you given them such good results and such good rapport, even in a few weeks, they're in. And remember we were talking about earlier, like my program, this is the program I do. You turn into my trainer. And I'll tell you this, as soon as you turn in to my trainer for a wealthy housewife in South Florida, you ain't never leaving. You have a paycheck for damn until she croaks or, every summer goes up north to Michigan because Florida's too hot. That's it. You're in. Because once you have built that actual trust through two things, great relation and phenomenal results, man, like when people have a good thing, they just don't trade up. My wife and I have one car to our household. It's a 2017 Subaru Outback. Why? Mark, because it fucking works, man.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get rid of it.
It's a great
It's
car.
getting a new car is this whole process. We're about to do it this summer. And it's like, oh, we're still going to keep the old car. Then we'll have
Mhm.
two. We've delayed this for years and years and years. Why? Because it works and it's great. And we like the car. It's the best car. I know it's not the best car. But
Mhm.
when people have a trainer that's vetted themselves through just two things, being cool and chill and a real human being, and also getting them predictable results,
Yeah.
man, where am I going to go? Because there's a thing about some people misunderstand this in economics. Um, they think greedy, evil bosses just want to fire their employees to save money and then hire the best instead. The
Yeah.
thing is, even when you have an employee that's not that great, they're dependably not that great. And if you hire someone else instead, that could be a better employee. You win. Or it could be a fucking disaster.
That's right.
And like they accuse you of some kind of crazy sexual harassment and your whole
Mhm.
gym shuts down and your life is ruined. And so just having a thing that's pretty good means there's a status quo bias built in, and then you're just never getting fired
Yeah.
functionally. And so
Yeah.
as a personal trainer, you don't need to build trust in some magical way and really tell the client, you're going to have to trust me for this. You don't have to do
Right.
shit. Just show up every Monday and Thursday like we planned and give me a little bit of effort. And after a few weeks, usually they're going to be like, this is great. And they're never going to leave.
Mhm. Yeah, man, that's super helpful, and I definitely I know that the trainers that listen to the show are going to really appreciate that. There's a lot there. So, Mike, after we talked about training, and I wanted to segue into supplements, and then certainly like PEDs and
Oh,
testosterone.
shit.
But do you have yeah, do you have a supplement list or a top three or top five list of your essentials that are absolutely necessary for someone who wants to gain strength and muscle?
No, no, that list doesn't exist.
Okay.
There are no essentials in
Mm-hmm.
supplements. If you have a good diet and you eat plenty of protein, you don't have to take any supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take a multivitamin, multimineral just to round out your bases? Sure. Can
Mm-hmm.
you take creatine to get a little bit of enhancement? And I mean a little bit of enhancement.
Right.
Yes. Are there a few other supplements that are worth mention? Maybe. Um, the hormones are much more interesting to discuss because there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more on the table there. But
Mm-hmm.
supplements are, man, supplements are the grand illusion in
Mm-hmm.
our industry. And don't get me wrong, most supplements are just foods repackaged.
Mm-hmm.
So we make a supplement now called the Genius Shot, which is 23 grams of protein, zero carbs, zero fats. It's a teeny little shot. It clears TSA. You can take it anywhere in the world. It's super delicious. You can mix it with anything. You can take it by yourself. It's like one of the best protein products ever made. It's a supplement, but it's also just protein. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're not saying like you need to have Genius Shot or you're going to lose all your muscle. It's nonsense. You could just never have Genius Shot and be amazing. But if you want an easier way to take in protein, Genius Shot, a bunch of different powders from all kinds of companies, a bunch of different shakes are awesome. It's a very different thing to saying you have to have them
Right.
versus like they're a good idea to have if you want, right?
Yeah.
Very, very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Creatine, you can benefit from, but it's a very small benefit. And to be completely honest, man, everything south of creatine, it's like very nuanced and for the teensiest little bit of maybe gains.
Mm-hmm.
The big question is, especially I think for a lot of South Florida people, is are your hormones remotely optimized or not? And
Mm-hmm.
there are a conversation of not so many hormones, luckily, but a few that's very, very important. And you can really figure out, hey, especially if I'm over 35, if I'm over 40, if I'm female and I'm perimenopausal or I'm in menopause, yeah, man, supplementing with the right hormones through a proper legal medical professional
Mm-hmm.
is a really big deal. And if you're trying to lose fat and weight and you're struggling, modern weight loss drugs are a miracle and
Mm-hmm.
hugely, hugely effective in a way that no supplement can ever claim to be. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot there.
Mm-hmm.
With supplements, it's kind of like, eh, it really is like I just really don't like to brag on supplements a ton
Mm-hmm. Of
because again, remember earlier we were talking about people asking what's the best bicep exercise?
course.
What supplement should I take? Absolutely ranks into that list of like
Oh yeah.
you are asking very, very much the wrong questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so happy you said that. Yeah, I think we all know it's hard to get 150 grams of protein in your system, or whatever it is. Certainly, if we have people here who are incredibly wealthy. They have food services, they have chefs. And if you have those things and you have the luxury of making your schedule, we all understand biological values, and the biological value of a protein shake and the biological value of a steak is very different, right? So, if you could optimize it and just get it from food, I agree with you. You absolutely should. But once again, I don't have time. I can't do that. It's not convenient. All of those things play into and are important variables. But I think that there's no shortcut with food. You got to eat great food and you got to train regularly. And if you do that and you commit to it for an extended period of time with consistency, as you said, you're going to get great results. Like I don't think that's a problem. Can we get into the hormone thing for both males and females?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's one question real quick is growth hormone.
Mm-hmm.
Tough to get a prescription for that in the United States because mostly they don't prescribe for disease conditions, but low dose growth hormone makes everything work better that you can conceivably measure. And it's amazing. It's just awesome. And it makes you lose fat faster. It makes your joints feel better. It makes your skin look better. The whole thing. High dose growth hormones like a good way to get like a really fucked up looking face and a bunch of cancer. So it's not like take more is better, but low dose can be really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for folks for males, the other big one is testosterone. And if you are actually low in testosterone production, and if you get several tests to confirm that you will probably benefit greatly from supplemental testosterone replacement therapy
Mm-hmm.
to get you into the normal range or even the high normal range. And then you gain muscle better, your joints feel better, you recover from injuries better, you get sick less often, you lose fat faster, you can hold on to more muscle and less fat at the same time. I mean, it's just like almost every conceivable benefit that you can think of all at the same time. So that's a really, really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the female side, I have just been availed to in detail recently because my wife, and she's been quite public about this, so I will say it, has been going through perimenopause, which, I've yelled at her for her to stop going through that. It just didn't work. We've had a couple of domestic disputes. The police were called. Again, still nothing. So we're like, okay, fuck it. We'll get you TRT. But she, going through perimenopause, was just starting to feel like, she's tired all the time, anxious all the time, not recovering from training, very blah results. Got her blood work done, and she's like, oh, this doesn't look right. And so menopause is a condition which results in the lowering of various hormones and the throwing off of others. But there's nothing about it is very good for your health or very good for your results. And because it lowers estrogen substantially, estrogen is cardioprotective. It mitigates heart attack risk. It is amazing for bone health. It is amazing for your skin. I mean, it's just like if you want to look your best in your 40s, you had better have a decent estrogen production naturally or be supplementing it.
Mm-hmm.
Progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone are hormones that are candidates for replacement in females that are perimenopausal or menopausal. The difference between females that are supplementing with those that are perimenopausal and menopausal and the difference between females that are not is often night and day. And what we're seeing today, I've been seeing more and more of this on the internet, is various female health experts, medical doctors, coming out and saying, for the longest time in the medical community, when women became perimenopausal and menopausal, unless they presented active, acute, very gnarly symptoms, hormonal remediation was not a concern. It's just not something doctors told you to do. That was a mistake. It turns out that, yeah, you'll be fine if your hormones are screwed up in the sense like you can still go to work, like
Yeah.
you'll still say hello to your children every day, but it's not remotely close to optimizing. And if I
Mm-hmm.
know anything about the South Florida lifestyle, it's everyone wants to look their sun-kissed best.
Oh
And if
yeah.
you want to look your best, you're going to have to make sure that in your 40s, late 30s and 40s and onwards, the hormones that your body naturally no longer optimizes for you, you're going to have to optimize with the help of a medical professional. And the
Yeah.
last thing I'll say is if you want longevity and you want the best health and you want the best quality of life and you want to make fat loss phases go the smoothest they have ever gone so you can be leaner and healthier, considering modern weight loss drugs is a phenomenally good idea. Drugs
Mm-hmm.
like Ozempic, drugs like Manjaro, these are drugs that have been tested night and day, front and back. And what we find with these drugs, which is very curious, very unlike almost any drug ever discovered, is that most of their side effects are just radically beneficial health effects. These drugs reduce systemic inflammation. They promote brain health and stop or reduce neural degeneration. They independently lower blood pressure and independently reduce heart disease risk and atherosclerotic buildup. Independently, I mean independent of their effects on weight loss. So you
Mm-hmm.
get with these drugs weight loss like crazy. How much weight you want to lose is just dose dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And you get all these enormous benefits to your health otherwise. In addition to that, these drugs have psychological benefits where you can see a reduction in most addictive behaviors.
Wow. Well,
What?
you mean that's crazy? Like, you mean like in regards to like someone who's a compulsive eater?
Oh, not just that.
Yeah.
Definitely that.
Hmm.
But a compulsive drinker, a compulsive smoker, a
Wow.
compulsive TikTok swiper.
Wow.
These medications reduce the proclivity of those behaviors. They put your mind at more inner peace, less noise, less,
Wow.
oh God, I got to do this thing.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. These
Yeah.
medications are like damn near magical. Most people either don't know about them or think, oh, this is just for obese people, or they think, well, I want to use it, but I don't want these crazy side effects. And these medications
Yeah.
absolutely do have negative side effects, but they're very easy to manage. And Mark, I'll tell you this, the number one management system for the side effects, which are mostly gastrointestinal,
Hmm.
heartburn and bloating and like nausea, vomiting, the
Yeah.
number one remediation is to control your calories and eat mostly healthy foods. If you want
Wow.
number one side effects on these drugs, take the drugs, go to McDonald's. You're going to have a real bad time.
Wow.
If you take the drugs and then you have a slice of salmon, a bit of brown rice, a bit of broccoli a few times a day, you're going to feel right as rain. You might feel a little
Wow.
nauseous at first. If you adjust the dose, that goes away. Everything is hunky dory and you
Hmm.
get amazing, amazing results.
Hmm. Understood. Do you have any hesitations, Mike? I mean, it sounds like it's a super high, long list rather of benefits. Do you have any reservations because of the, I guess, the time it's been out, the length of its usage? Um, any reservations because of that?
No, because semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in the drug Ozempic, has been around for more than 20 years and been
Hmm.
done low dose in diabetics. It was tested on animals even before then. So any hypothetical long term stuff that comes up is going to be like, it probably should have been around. And the contrary is also a thing. Um, we know what happens when people don't take these drugs:
Yeah, that's right.
obesity,
Yeah.
chronic inflammation, diabetes, the whole thing. And these are things that happen just with aging to almost everyone. And
Hmm.
so when the normal state of affairs is perfect, serene health, you don't futz with it. Don't take any drugs. They're going to for sure have side effects. So better safe than sorry. Just one thing
Okay.
I'm trying to bring to public attention as much as possible. When you're in a
Understood.
state of poor health or in a state of aging, you're not safe. So better safe than sorry does not apply. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to look at all the drugs and say, what can help me? Imagine you were getting rescued off a desert island, right?
Hmm.
Like one palm tree, little puddle of water, and then just waves in the Pacific Ocean. And someone, a helicopter came down and they're like, grab the ladder, like grab the little rope ladder, get up. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I could sprain my wrist on that ladder. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
You're going to die here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's life and death, but I'm saying if you're in your 50s, you're overweight, your inflammation is very high, you're at higher chronic disease risk for cardiovascular events, and you're looking at these drugs that in the clinical trials and in the post-clinical data are like just knocking out every variable and they seem amazing. 20 years of research on the basic class of these drugs is asking the question, have they been researched enough? A good idea? Yes. But the answer is they have. And so after that, you got to go, okay, well, it seems like I'm going to be better off taking these drugs than not. And we're entering an era where we just began of AI assisted drug discovery, where artificial intelligence is going to be discovering and optimizing drugs for us that are just way, way, way better than anything we'd have come up ourselves and way faster.
Hmm.
And so the idea of seeing drugs as, now what here can I take to make me better?
Hmm.
is going to be much more true than the idea of, well, I just kind of want to avoid drugs and do this on my own.
Hmm.
On my own is cool if you want to live like people lived in the 1950s and 1970s. People
Yeah.
died 10 years earlier from very preventable causes. And as soon as they hit their 40s, they started to look like shit. Mark, have you ever looked at videos and pictures of like past famous people and past television shows in the
Oh
70s and
yeah.
80s? How
Oh,
people looked in their 40s and
I
shit?
like
You're like,
Mike. I'm sorry to break your stride. You
please.
know those Instagram memes? He goes, they show like Roseanne Barr or someone
Yeah.
in their 30s, and they look like
Yep.
they're 50 something years old.
Yes. That's
So
that back in the day, man. Those are the good old days. So
yeah,
change is good.
yeah. I'm sorry to break your stride, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I had that was on my list of questions for you. Certainly Ozempic. Now, I wanted to go back. You mentioned HGH and testosterone. I certainly have more questions. With HGH, the upside is well documented. If it's manageable, low dose, is there any longevity challenges there? I mean, just I know it's certainly one of one person to person. It's very specific to the individual, but in general, is it there's been mixed reviews of shortened life expectancy of someone taking that. Is that inaccurate? Is that a myth?
It's nuanced but accurate. So
Mhm.
if you just take low dose human growth hormone,
What's a low dose, Mike?
anything up to 2 IUs per day. If you take low dose growth hormone consistently and you do not exercise, you
Hmm.
do not control your diet, you're under high stress and shit sleep, you will experience probably a slight decline in longevity. Very tiny, but
Wow.
nonetheless, you will. Increased blood pressure, increased cardiovascular risk, increased risk of tumor growth, the whole thing. If you take low to even moderate dose growth hormone, in some cases up to 4 IUs per day, but you control your diet so that you lose fat. Growth hormone makes fat loss very easy if you try. If you don't, it just nothing happens. And you eating very good diet, you're exercising substantially, you're getting really good sleep, and you manage to get much leaner and stay leaner, then growth hormone does not extend your lifespan, but it doesn't shorten your lifespan. And so what you end up is living roughly the same amount of time, but in like way better shape. So your quality of life is much higher, which matters a ton. There are
Hmm.
other things you can do for your longevity, like getting even smaller, even leaner, reducing stress massively in your life, and
Hmm.
a bunch of other stuff. And there will be drugs coming in the next 10 years that boost human longevity to just 3 question mark limits of like, there's age reversal drugs coming in the next 10 years that are going to, make everyone who's in their 50s functionally appear to be, and at the cellular level be measured to be like in their early 20s. Like,
Wow.
huge age reversal is coming. It is inevitable. It's going to be a big hit in Miami for sure. Like,
Yeah.
arguably the best place in the world to be for that. So really the question is, are you going to make it that far?
Hmm.
And how are you going to live your life while we're getting to that place?
Hmm.
If you take low dose growth hormone, can have zero effects on your longevity, but have a way better quality of life.
Hmm.
And if you have a better quality of life, then the mechanistic effects of longevity are the same. But now you're liking your life better. You're under less stress. You love your body more. You have a fun hobby of working out. You might actually experience a net increase in how many years you're expected to live simply because you're loving life more. We do
Hmm.
have a lot of really good data. People that are really loving their lives outlive people that really just grind through. And
Hmm.
a lot of that's just on mentality alone. So
Hmm.
if you're using supplements to empower hashtag your best life, that's a big longevity booster in and of itself. You just have to make sure not to take a ton of supplements or the ones that kill you really fast. So
Yeah.
that's how I see the situation with growth hormone. Low dose has no mechanistic effect on your longevity as long as you allow it to help you to lose fat and to get better sleep and all those other good things that it does. Now, mind you, I know plenty of people that have taken plenty of growth hormone in the past and weren't even training. And they were staying up to odd hours, having a super high stress life. That is going to fucking kill you
Right.
a little bit faster than you would otherwise have died. And it's not
Right.
going to help you hardly at all. I
Right.
got to say, man, I was hit with this recently with an interaction, but I just realized this is a demographic. I wonder how much you run into it, Mark. Probably not at the gym, but there is a demographic, there's a slice of the American pie that are especially males in their 30s, 40s, 50s that are like going to these clinics. There's tons of them in South Florida.
Oh,
They'll
tons.
prescribe you every hormone you've ever wanted, and they're taking all these hormones, but they're like CEO jet setter lifestyle. They barely sleep. They have like 10 mistresses. They're super stressed all the time. They go to dinners all the time. They have 5 drinks at dinner, 8 egg rolls. And then they wake up at 3 in the morning to go catch a flight to Nepal because they have a business there, the factory's closing. And they hardly ever work out and they eat total junk. And they're like, well, I take, ipamorelin and stuff. That's good, right? And you're like, no, you're going to die really soon. So have you run into that sort of demographic?
I think we know the same guy.
It's a lot of
Guy,
guys.
guys, let's say guys. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you just described, Mike, was so insanely accurate. It's like, no, I'm healthy, bro. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you just told me about your last 48 hours. I didn't really drink. You know, when they tell you I only had a couple drinks,
Oh,
we both
yeah.
know how many drinks that was. If they
Yeah.
say two, it was 6 to 7 or 8, right?
For
And it's like,
sure.
and,
Who
and I
has
do that
two
every day.
drinks? What a ridiculous
Yeah,
number to
but that's under control. That's really not an issue. And then just what they treat their body like an amusement park, and they don't realize that they're
have.
because they have the luxury of having a massive influx of dopamine. There's only one place to go,
Yeah.
and when they don't ride high, they feel angry, frustrated,
Yeah.
depressed, and everyone else is the problem. So
Yeah.
I've dealt with this, and I just try to be as supportive as I can, but at some point it's like there's only so much you can do. And that's where we were going, Mike, with this next part is testosterone. We talked about, you talked about, and educated us on why it's so important, why it's positive to supplement. Where is the law of diminishing returns in regards to if you're 40, 50, 60, and your testosterone's 1200, 1500, 2000?
Yeah.
How is that going to show itself? What's the downside? And is it person to person? I'm talking about what are the side effects and
Yeah.
symptoms?
I mean, yeah, like you're going to have higher bad cholesterol, higher blood pressure, higher triglycerides. You're going to be more irritated and anxious and upset throughout the day. You're going to be making more kind of rash decisions,
Mm-hmm.
more like angry and liable to blow up at people,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have interference in sleep quality,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those things rise exponentially with dose. So the thing with testosterone is two things. Keeping it into the normal range is a good idea. So a lot of people say they're on TRT, but what they're really on is like triple the testosterone their body produces, which if you're trying to compete in bodybuilding is just how you do things. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're 55 years old and you're trying to live your best life, it's not how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
So part one recommendation is two parts. Part one is try to stay within the normal range. Anything north of 1,000 nanograms per deciliter is probably too much. And the second part is symptoms and blood work. If your blood work is better at 1,200 than it is at 800, and you are living just your best life at 1,200, whereas 800 you feel a little deflated, hey, 1,200 might be the answer for you. Whereas
Okay.
for some people, at 400 they're living great, and at 600 it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So a combination of blood work and symptoms and how you're feeling is really the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with testosterone, as with many other of these things, it works phenomenally well when it is paired with good diet, good training, and good stress management and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have those things, if you're that guy we were talking about, Mr. CEO guy that's jet
Yeah.
setting and eating cheeseburgers at 2 a.m.,
Yeah.
all the TRT in the world might actually make you less healthy than more healthy.
That's very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
because you're giving yourself the fuse and the fuel. Like the testosterone is the fuse, and the fuel is cheeseburgers. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, the two combine, and nothing good really happens. So
Mm-hmm.
and this was interesting. Dana White, UFC president Dana White, was talking about this in one of the podcasts he did, where people say, he had his recent really impressive transformation.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, no shit, you did TRT. And he's like, you guys, I was on TRT a long time before this, and I looked like shit, and I felt
Yeah.
like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, when he got on a really good diet and he managed to stress better and he was working out regularly, he lost a bunch of fat and gained a bunch of muscle, and his health went through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
That was TRT the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just, maybe because this is a South Florida podcast, I have to really put the emphasis on the fact that in the future, in 10 years, there will 100% be pills you can take that will make it so you don't have to exercise much or at all, and you'll get all these amazing benefits.
Mm-hmm.
TRT is not that pill. It is not that
Right.
potion. It is not that injection. That's not how it
Mm-hmm.
works.
Okay.
So a lot of these folks, and I know a lot of these people personally, they're busy and they're busy minded. They're always like, what quick thing can I do to optimize this? How can I
Oh
hack
yeah.
this? That whole biohacker bullshit that came out of the Bay Area like 20 years ago, like,
Yeah.
like just drink this coffee with butter in it and you'll be fucking
Yeah.
10 times more productive.
Yeah.
There are no hacks other than
Right.
advanced drugs like Ozempic. That's a hack. It costs $1,000 a month, but it's a hack. 800 or 200 if you do a compounding pharmacy. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
need for bad news. But in reality, it's the idea that you can just take a bunch of supplements and growth hormones and all this other stuff, and then treat your body like you said, like like an amusement park ride. That's not how it works, and you will find yourself in very, very dire straits if you try that.
Right. So I find a person like you said, testosterone is the fuse. Testosterone is getting them going. It's revving them up, and they're feeling jacked up and ready to go. And then they have to take something for sleep quality.
Yep.
Then they have to take something to kind of get up and get going in the morning. Then they have to take, whatever it is. They're just such a cocktail, and I think they're like kind of like. I think testosterone is fine. I don't take it. I'm certainly open to taking it. Someday it's probable, but my testosterone numbers are actually pretty solid.
There you go.
Last time I was 883 and I feel really good. So,
Perfect. No need.
And I don't compete. So at least in bodybuilding. So anyway, I feel like you're kind of manufacturing getting yourself through life. You need a fuse. You need something to go down at night to sleep better. You need something to wake back up. It's like, what about just getting good sleep? What maybe like trying to reduce anxiety naturally, doing some things that put you in the parasympathetic. Like, let's try those things first. But as you said, everyone wants a quick fix. I want the quick fix. Let's get it going.
Yeah. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's everyone wants a quick fix, but it's a spectrum of people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are on the one end of the spectrum where they're willing to grind for years for no results in order to get the long term.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum are people who are like, they won't even go to the gym. Driving to the gym is too much effort for them.
Right.
And everything in between. And I think it's those people that have lots of money, lots of busy career stuff, and at the same time, access to hormone doctors. And they think like, well, if I just really optimize my hormones, I can kind of do fuck all. And those are the folks that get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very well said. Now, do you find like, how do you feel about, let's, cause we're here, Mike, what are the most, I mean, I could give you things that I see, but what are the most abused things outside of testosterone, other PEDs? Is it Tren? Is it Anavar? Like, sometimes I walk into the gym and I'm like, that woman looks incredible. And 3 months ago, she did not look that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. Right. And it's not, she doesn't look skinnier. She looks like a track athlete. So do you have any thoughts on like, what are the most today, 2025, the most abused PEDs?
I'm not really sure. I'm not available to statistical data on that, but, Tren gets a lot of memes written about it. Very few people actually take Tren. Most people that will try it will be like, this is toxic. I hate my life. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Anavar, oxandrolone gets used quite a bit by people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes for excellent effects and sometimes for not so excellent effects.
Mm-hmm.
And with the female crowd, you take a lot of androgens, you will start to turn into a man. Androgen, man creator,
That's
literally in the name. So that's something folks really have to be careful because some of those effects are reversible. Some are not reversible. So really, really perilous ground there.
That's super helpful. The peptides, the BPC 157 and CJC. Do you like them?
So like BPC 157 is for joint healing and
Mm-hmm.
connective tissue healing and injury healing. It's good. It works really well. It's not magic. And then um, some of the other ones have really good uses. I'd say taking like a high quality pharmaceutical grade low dose growth hormone checks a lot of boxes for you. But
Mm-hmm.
some peptides are good. I would say that if you're using peptides, remember that they're very powerful drugs
Mm-hmm.
and they need a lot of medical management, and don't just like order them and take them, because some people use peptides and supplements kind of interchangeably. And I think that's a big mistake.
Okay. Okay. How do you feel about things like, I saw something. Uh, I actually did a ketamine experience at a lab. Never done it in my life, and I felt like I was tripping on a drug at a concert, and I never done a recreational drug in my life
Whoa.
until then. And that's exactly what it felt like. How do you feel about ketamine?
I know almost nothing about ketamine. Ketamine
Okay.
used to be a drug that like just ravers took in the 90s, and you would like
Right.
get in a K-hole and sit in the corner of the club for 8 hours and watch people move in slow-mo. But I've actually never taken ketamine. I've taken a lot of other party drugs, but I've never
Okay.
taken ketamine. It's funny that you started your party drug journey with ketamine. That's a pretty hardcore way to start it out. So yeah, I mean, I just don't, unfortunately, I don't know enough about it to comment intelligently on it.
Mhm.
Most drugs can be used intelligently in a managed way to promote overall well-being. But look, it's Miami. Why are you doing anything other than China White? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Columbia Pure. There's only one drug. I believe the buildings in Miami are actually made of cocaine instead of cement.
I
That's how
mean,
I've come to understand it.
my Miami is a very it is the Walt Disney of the party life. So that's saying the least.
Yeah.
Mike, what about any experience with nicotine? Um, I've certainly experienced, nicotine and tobacco. I used to be 1,000 years ago. I was an athlete, and I chewed tobacco, and I know that's a little bit different from how it's being used today.
Yeah.
They use it for performance and concentration as well today, and that's I used it for concentration and stay awake in the film room back in the day. What are your thoughts on nicotine?
Nicotine is in the absence of all of the negative effects that come with tobacco. So, for example, if you're using a nicotine product like, what is it, like Sesh or Zyn or something like that,
Yeah, Zen.
these are like fundamentally not so terrible for your health if you use them in moderation, especially if you're attending to your blood pressure and things like that, and you're not taking them so late that they interfere with sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But nicotine is also really, really, really addictive. And so it's not a drug most people end up using recreationally. They're kind of like, once you
Mm-hmm.
start using it, you're just kind of using it and then kind of all the time.
Right.
And so if you're able to moderate your use of nicotine, cool. If not, you should probably just stay the fuck away from it.
Yeah. I don't know too many people that can moderate their use of a highly addictive substance, as you said. I
Same.
used to know the people who used to chew the nicotine gum, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that guy chews. I told my wife once, I said that guy chews a lot of gum. She said he's chewing nicotine gum. I said he's been chewing gum all day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's good for him. He said, well, it's not smoking. I said, I hear you, but it doesn't sound like it's actually good for his health. So
Yeah. It's probably like nicotine's probably neutral for your health if you do a little bit of it. And it's a little bit
mhm.
bad for your health if you do a moderate amount. If you do a really high amount, it's pretty bad for your health. A
Mhm,
lot of people
mhm.
end up doing a really high amount. If you can do a moderate or low amount, you're probably fine. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's much easier said than done.
yeah. I know like the journey of like training, and we put things in our body to try to optimize, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. I have heard your story in that you had an interesting journey and you had moments where you didn't feel as great. Um, could you caution any of the listeners to not only educate themselves, but maybe anything you're willing to share about your story that when it became really challenging because your body didn't react as well?
Uh, I'd say my one little grain of wisdom to kind of maybe leave folks with at the end of this process here is, it's going to sound fucked up, but I promise it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hope is another way of saying inflated expectations that are irrational.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's much better to invest your time and your thinking into effort
Mm-hmm.
and thinking, whatever comes of this, I'm going to be proud of myself for it. I'm going to reevaluate the state of affairs, and I'm going to move another step forward. And so
Mm-hmm.
my biggest disappointments have come from hoping and expecting a certain thing that never happened. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you just stick to the process and whatever happens, happens, and you're always trying to do your best, but you're never expecting that it'll go miraculously, a lot of times you're pleasantly surprised. And you're
Mm-hmm.
rarely disappointed because in order to be disappointed, you have to first appoint yourself. You have to first have expectations. So it's saying having expectations, especially high expectations, combined with once you even achieve the high expectations, never being satisfied with them, is a real good ticket to having not a lot of fun real damn fast.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was so well said. So well said. I mean, you've dropped so much knowledge on us here, and I know I went over, but I really, really appreciate your time. I appreciate your knowledge and sharing your experiences and your stories. And I know it's going to impact a lot of people. So I can't thank you enough. And when you're in Florida, next time you're in South Florida or you're by us, I'd love for you to come by the gym and experience anatomy. That would be
Yahoo.
amazing.
Mark, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I loved every minute.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'll definitely send you some cut ups and make sure that you like everything, and we'll go from there. But please thank
Perfect.
your wife as well for all the connection,
I
and
sure will.
wish you a lot of luck, man, and happy healing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.